it on that one.
Yeah,
I just need
it's
to
a
think
big
of.
question. Yeah.
I think a tangent is kind of necessary to start the video off.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to BearTalks. Today we are once more joined by Khan of Step.
Hello, everyone. Good to be here.
We're going to start off today by having a little chat about something a little strange. CA is announced that they will be bringing out an FPS. So, taking a quick look at some of these brand new images, what do you think about this FPS?
Well, I am just looking at this image for the first time right now, and I don't know if I probably shouldn't be surprised that it's looking like going to be a space game. So that's kind of exciting. I mean, it's going to be what is this going to be about? Is it just going to be multiplayer only? Because I feel like that's what I'm seeing right here. This ambitious multiplayer title is a fresh take on the FPS genre that will allow players to embrace a variety of creative playstyles. So that to me sounds like a Team Fortress 2, or I'm dating myself. These days it's Overwatch or
Well,
Apex
I don't know.
Legends.
Team Fortress 2, I'm thinking further back, like Quake Arena and stuff.
Oh, yeah, look at us go. But I think it's these class-based shooters, which is all the rage these days, which is I'm a big fan of personally. For someone who I haven't played an FPS since Halo 2, but I have actually watched a lot of stuff on Team Fortress 2 and Overwatch, and I think it's a really great concept. I think it's really fun. A lot of what these games, I think the key for this, if this is what they're doing, the key is going to be to create a really unique personality for this game, because that's something that these games are really nailing down these days. Because you don't just have a faceless nobody, like Team Fortress 2 had those really amazing class videos for each of the characters. I think Overwatch has entire lore or stories behind all of their they're heroes?
Yeah,
Are
they
called
have
heroes
full
in that game?
videos on YouTube of
Yeah.
all the past and how they got into the system, how they met each other. There's comics and stuff
Right.
about it as well.
Totally, and that's totally taken from Team Fortress 2, and I don't know if it really goes back any further than that, but if that's the direction we're going with this, or if that's the direction that CA is going with this, that's the job that they're gonna have cut out for them. But that's just based on one sentence. We're talking about embracing a variety of creative play styles, and what else could that mean? Are we thinking too inside the box right now, Bjorn, or is there another way that we could do this? It's not necessarily based on class-based shooters.
If I'm being 100% honest, although that sounds fun, class-based shooters are interesting, my multiplayer days are over. I used to play Counter-Strike way back when, and a Wolfenstein game that I still can't remember the name of. But that was kind of it, and that was when I was a kid. Nowadays, I'm really all about single player. Seeing this picture, this lovely, I don't even know what to call it. It just makes me think of Blade Runner. Everything's making me think of Blade Runner these days.
Yeah.
Which is not a bad thing. But I'm really hoping for that solid narrative, some kind of story mode going into this. And I'm going to be honest, I'm hoping that when they did Alien Isolation, they're taking the ideas they got from that, because they had some brilliant little parts, particularly with the AI of the alien itself. If they could introduce that into this and have a much more challenging and not quite survival game, but survival mechanics in this, that could be a really interesting title.
So do you think it actually might have any single player to it? Because I haven't opened up the link yet, but this is just saying multiplayer title, and I'm wondering, because I hoped for the first thing at first. When you first told me about this, I was thinking, oh cool, that'd be nice if we have a narrative, if we have some set pieces, because I'm a sucker for a good set piece. For me, it's kind of weird how much multiplayer FPSs kind of took off, considering how mean people are to each other. It's because playing an epic, right? Playing an epic set piece by yourself in your living room. To me, I think those are some of my favorite times playing FPS. And like I said, it's been been since Halo 2 for me, since I've played a first-person shooter. It's been that long for me. I've dabbled a little bit with like, I think the last Call of Duty game I played was World at War, which I actually really enjoyed, but I enjoyed it
Right.
not for its multiplayer. I just really liked the campaign. I thought that the campaign was very interesting and very well written.
I know
So
this is very
I'm with you.
controversial, but I absolutely despised that campaign.
Oh, it was tough.
It was
was a
just
tough
running through
campaign.
trees, and I was like, oh, sweet, more trees, another game. Here they are.
Oh, oh, I know. So for me at World of War, there's like such a difference between like fighting the Russians, where it's a really straight up kind of normal place. Oh no,
I get
fighting as the
you.
Russians against the Germans. But then they had the different playstyle where you go to the islands, the Pacific Islands, where fighting against the Japanese, and it was terrifying. For me,
No,
I
I
was
definitely
like,
get you. Like that.
I was on edge.
Yeah, like that sudden. It's not just a shift in the playstyle or anything. It's like an atmosphere change. Like
Oh,
as
yeah,
a
yeah.
technical thing, I do commend them, and I can understand why it is so loved. But whenever I look at that, because I really what stands out for me is the stuff on the islands. I can't remember the name of the game. I think it was like Men of Valor or something. But there was an old FPS that had some amazing wounding mechanics in it. And I just always like that was kind of the pinnacle of that asymmetric warfare in an SPS. Sorry, in an FPS.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't played nor really seen anything of Alien Isolation. So when you're talking about the mechanics in it that you thought were interesting that you just mentioned, are you talking about AI behavior themselves, or is there other things that
So
you liked about it?
they also have I don't really know how well this would work on PC. Obviously, if you have a microphone, it could. But they brought actual sound into the game. So if you're playing on the Xbox One, I think.
Is
I
it-
can
yeah.
remember. Yeah, I think it was Xbox One. But it had the Xbox Connect, and I love how I'm pretty sure it says it, but just no one notices or just doesn't care and like hits X and goes through it. If you make a sound, the alien can hear it. So, of course, you're
Oh.
like midway through the game, and I can remember my cat was with me, and it just meowed, and then suddenly I got killed. I was like, wait, what? Did I just get killed by my cat?
No way. No way. I didn't know that. That's real? Like, if you
Yeah,
say
it's really
anything and your
cool.
microphone picks it up, holy crap. That's actually a really neat idea.
Yeah,
It's one of
like-
those things. Yeah, that's super. That's really one of those things that, like, because of course you want to like curse and swear and scream and do all of those things, but it's like a video game version of what's that? Oh crap! What's the movie? They're just doing a sequel for it right now. Be Quiet Place or Quiet? Be Quiet.
Oh,
It's about the
I think
alien
it's Quiet
monsters.
Place. Yeah.
Quiet Place, right? It's like a video game version of that. It's brilliant. I didn't know that they did that, and I agree with you. I think that there's like creative elements like that that CA can bring into a first-person shooter. Me personally, all I want to do is take care of my population loyalty and my squalor. If I can do that in a first-person shooter, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Oh no,
I'm just
if
kidding.
they
I don't
brought
want
in
them to be
like
that
base
creative.
mechanics, like imagine playing like oh, I'm just trying to think like Three Kingdoms. You have your base, and then you set off with Lubu, and then you go like chivalry style first-person combat. That would be pretty cool.
Right.
That's
right,
basically
right.
Battlelords.
That'd
Now
be
I
pretty
think
cool,
about
too.
it. I was just gonna say, complete tangent. Didn't expect it to go quite that far. But talking about CA expanding, doing these very different titles. We had Alien Isolation in there. We have the brand new first-person shooter. They also took part in Halo Wars 2, as we can see on CA's site. Do you think this diversification of the company is starting to show a little lack of focus in regards to the Total War series?
I don't think so myself. I think that the core mechanics, and then this is something that when I play. So for those of you who aren't familiar, my channel focuses just on the first Shogun Total War for now. That's what I'm playing, and I will eventually work up to other titles as well. But I wanted to start with the first game because I wanted to see just where the franchise itself started, and it's really compelling to see everything that was there from the beginning. Things that we might take for granted now, But I think a lot of this, it never really left. A lot of it's always been there, and that core is still there. At least to me, it really does
Mhm.
feel like the same, in a lot of ways, the same game. But something that I think we were talking about before a little bit, and it's something that we're talking about where they definitely, Creative Assembly definitely has this innovative side to them that really
Yeah.
likes to try to find new ways to do things, new ways to do things. And as a business, it's not just business, it's survival. You have to adapt. I mean,
Yeah.
that that's not just business, that's warfare. You have to keep it, adapting, and that's not just warfare, that's life. But I'll stop.
Yeah.
But that's one of those things, you have to keep adapting.
No, it's cool.
You have to
Keep
keep
it going. Keep the
adapting to
metaphor.
these
All's good.
things. And I know. I'll see how far I can take that one. But that's it's important that they keep doing this, and I think that it's hard for players to kind of to live with it, because we fall in love with a certain thing, a certain formula, a certain
Mhm.
way of doing things, and then a new game comes out, and then we feel old, and then we're like, ah, geez, in
Yeah.
our days it was a little different, and it was like, yeah, well, things changed. How dare they? And I'm not being completely, pragmatic here. I get that the changes aren't always for the
Mhm.
best. You kind of lose some, you kind of get some, and that's been the formula. It's step by step throughout all of the games, all the way as you go. Even the change from Shogun to medieval, you still lost things.
Mhm.
Things that people don't really care about these days, but they cared about them back then. When you lost the intro video to the campaign, or even the victory video to the campaign, it was weird playing a
Yeah.
medieval, Total War, and then winning, and then you had
It's
a
just a
little
panel.
a
Yeah.
menu thing come up saying you won the game,
Mm.
right? A little
Well,
panel,
it's
yeah. And it's like,
originally it's like,
huh,
congratulations, you got
those,
victory. Would you
yeah,
like to keep going for a major victory? And then the major victory comes up
yeah.
and it's just congratulations, you got a victory. Is that it?
I
Okay,
know.
cool.
You
Next
should be able
faction.
to ask. Right. Well, you should have been able to ask at the first panel, do I get a video? Yes or no? Yes, I'll keep going. No, then
I'm
no, I'm good
super
enough as is.
mercenary about
I
it, but
don't think
yeah.
I'll start another faction or something. I know. I know. I know. But yeah, I think that's something that we've seen on and on and on,
Mhm.
and it's something that I don't think, at least up until now, I don't think that we're seeing a loss of identity here. I see, to me, really what I think is, I don't know if this is being overlooked just because it's not on Steam yet, but Total War Troy to me looks fantastic. It really looks like,
Mhm.
a really special game to me. The sound design is just, this is gonna sound kind of cheesy, but like it kind of
Mhm.
reminds me of a Christopher Nolan movie. The sound design is just so
Okay.
awesome. It's something that I was watching a channel just the other day. I think it's Happy Compy Total War.
Mhm.
Sorry if it's Happy. I think it's Happy Compy Total War, and he
Yeah,
did like his
sure.
Total War Troy Worth It. Um, and what's up?
No, I was just saying, yeah, I think that's right. Sorry, you were saying about the Total Troy
Yeah,
worth it?
yeah. Yeah, and he was, and something that he was talking about was the sound design. He compared the battle sound design in Troy to that in Attila, and he said, Attila's not bad. Then he played the Troy clip, and it's like really cacophonous as the
Mhm.
footsteps are coming in, and the units are chanting and roaring, and it's stuff like that
So this
you
is
know I
an interesting
I
thing I
see
have
people
with
complain
Troy.
about the game.
But that's, I was just gonna say, yeah, people complain about
Yeah,
Troy, and it has kind of been almost abandoned by the community at this point, really. But
yeah,
for the experimental technical developments of the game, so looking at your
absolutely.
audio, your UI, looking at the visuals, I personally am against the Blood DLC. I'm not a big fan of it, and I don't think it looks that good in Troy, like when it's all on max. But the way the
Right.
blood disperses amongst water, that is incredible. Like, it
Right.
looks
Yeah.
unbelievable. And
Right.
sort of there, like, you
Yeah.
can complain all you want about this, but seriously, people, let's give a nice round of applause to the team that did this. And recently,
Yeah.
actually, there was a Twitch stream, and I can't remember who, it was Alex something, I think. I'm gonna feel really bad now. But he was on the BAFTAs, and he was
Alex the
talking
Rambler?
about... No, it's a member of the actual development team of CA. And I
Oh,
was
okay.
I was
Yeah.
just talking to him because he was doing a section on the UI in Total War, and I just asked, you know, how much community feedback do you use? How much player feedback? What sort of things do you do for it? And he was saying, actually, yeah, they monitor community feedback throughout the life of a Total War game, specifically to get that sort of information and how to improve all those UI features as they go. I mean, I was impressed. Like, from, as I said, like a technical perspective, developing the game, I feel Troy really does have its merit. Even if, having played the game, I don't think it's not the worst, but it's definitely not the best Total War.
Sure. Okay. And I think, well, it's something that you brought up there, talking about the interaction between CA and with its community, and that's something that I think it's really always been there. Now, not always to the same degree. I think that there was kind of a rough patch with the Rome 2 and Attila days where I think there was moments where they were releasing stuff that just seemed like, what was it, the Beasts of War DLC that just was so laughable. It was
With,
like, you know, you charge just
beehive
like
catapults.
$3. Yeah, and it was like, what, you want us to buy this for £3? And it's just, we didn't, you know, it was like, what are we doing here? And then, but over time, of course, Rome 2 eventually became into a really fleshed out title that to this day looks very, to me at least, it looks very playable. But I think there's a real kind of, I feel like there's a dip there where it looked like they weren't responding a lot to what people were saying. I think there was a lot of Heir of Carthage was just, you know, saying a lot of things. Legend was saying a lot of things like, hey, is anyone listening here? You know, come on, we keep talking about these things that are broken.
For me, like, I've been running a series, the Ages of Total War. I'm gonna say 5. There'll probably be 6 by the time I finish. And that is something I was really starting to see more and more of as I was researching it. When you're coming into Empire was the first, not massive, but the first introduction of those like DLC packs for like little things, little units and stuff.
Sure, yeah.
And they did it again in Napoleon, and it did pretty well. And then it came into Shogun, and they made it a little bigger, but they still kept bringing in faction packs and such. And then they sort of got us used to it, and then kind of like just dropped the veil and went, oh yeah, by the way, boom, here are 10, 15 DLC packs for different units and different factions who are pretty much the same as every other faction, but you should totally get them.
Yeah, yeah, I see where you're going with that. I think that because they were pretty cheap, weren't they? With like you'd get like a special, what were they called? I want to say that there was like a special operations pack with Napoleon. Yeah.
Yeah, it was I think it was Units of the Union or something like that. Like
Units of the Union?
Yeah, because you had like I might be thinking of Empire now, I think I say that.
Yeah.
Google.
Yeah. but they go from there, and I think that for me personally, I really do like the idea of the campaign editions. I think that that's really neat stuff, like Hannibal at the Gates and so on and so forth. I think for me that's really enjoyable, or will be really enjoyable when I start playing these games, because that adds so much, you know, more potentially to the game itself. And I wonder if that was through direct community involvement or not. I'm not positive about that, but I do know it's like going back to the involvement with it. I remember I've been on the forums and seen you know, certain members of the development teams talking about Shogun patches way back, you know, 21 years ago. They were talking about Shogun patches, or Jack Lusted, who was, I think, the lead developer. Do you know Jack Lusted? He's the guy who did he's like the lead developer for Thrones of Britannia
I've seen the name pop up.
Three Kingdoms.
But yeah.
Yeah, but he's been around for forever. He was back, in Medieval 2, when you line up archers against the walls of a castle, and
Mm-hmm.
so for some reason their arrows go straight up before going back down onto the enemy,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't actually get your archers to like shoot through the
Direct shot.
paraparts
Yeah.
at the yeah, right. And he actually addressed that and said if you try to get into the files and change it so that the castle walls are a little bit lower, then you can have it so that they shoot through
Mm-hmm.
because they won't be blocked, and so he was involved in that. So it's like you see a lot of stuff like that, and you see also in Empire, when Empire was basically dropped for Napoleon, Mike Simpson got on to his blog, which I couldn't find for this conversation. I wanted to find this, and it might be taken off the internet by now, but I know that it is quoted in a retrospective review of Empire in a website that I can send you if you want to put it on this video later.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, it's a blog that the writer's been doing these retrospectives for all of these Total War games. He's done a very good job, and he quotes this Mike Simpson blog that I read in full years ago, but I can't find it now. But it feels like something that seems very necessary these days. Wink, wink, because it's a situation where these players bought a full-priced game, and then. And it was a very ambitious game. It was a game that had AI that didn't work, and it really didn't work.
Yeah,
and Mike Simpson,
terrible Empire.
yeah, right. And then Mike Simpson says like, look, hey, okay, I know this is kind of harsh, but right now, it really seemed like to start over again, we had to start over a completely new game, and we couldn't just patch Empire. There's a situation where their lead AI designer just like quit right before the game was finished. Yeah, and it's not, they don't go into details about what's what. It might have been just a personal thing, or maybe he was mad at CA. Don't have no idea. But it's a situation where, yeah, like that's a big thing. And Mike Simpson himself says that the AI for Empire was the most advanced that he had ever seen written. It's just that it didn't work because it wasn't it wasn't a finished product.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It wasn't a finished title. But I think that blog post that he put out to explain it didn't make people happy. It didn't solve it. It didn't make any.
Yeah.
But it was necessary. It treated us like adults. It treated the fans like adults that deserved an explanation for what happened. And from there you can kind of move on a little bit. The wounds can heal a little bit over time, just knowing that at least they addressed our questions. And if it was a technical thing, if it was because the game just couldn't be patched for some reason. I'm not a designer, so I don't know these things. But if the game just couldn't be patched for some reason, then that's that. There's nothing I or anyone else can say about that, right?
Yeah.
I think we're
sort
seeing
of like physically showing up and fixing it yourself.
Right.
We really are unable to do anything.
Right.
But,
and I think we're seeing a little bit of this happen just now, right?
Yes, I was just going to bring that in because, of course, we've had the announcement. It's not even an announcement. We've had a random video that was released by CA, which I'll put links to in the description, of course, where you can see. I even did a Bear News on this, and I'm not even sure how to summarize it because I don't think anyone really knew what the heck was going on. So, basic gist. 2 halves to this video. First half talks about what you've done. It's those lovely breakdowns of statistics, how many campaigns have been had, how many soldiers have been felled. Then the second half comes up. And this is where the confusion comes in, because the second half, that we now know, they made the announcement that they have dropped Three Kingdoms Total War from production, from development of CA. And instead, they're now going to focus onto a new title. But no one knew. And it meant that the next day, CA had to go and comment and pin that comment on the video, declaring exactly what they're doing, because no one understood the video.
They're ending support for Three Kingdoms. And yeah, it's one of those things that in some ways, so the timing, in some ways the timing seems very, very off, right? Because they probably should have been told this once they had more information on the future title.
Mm-hmm.
If there's nothing that they can tell us, then what are we supposed to do if not, you know, review bomb the game? I don't agree with that, but I'm just saying, like, of course people are like panicking and weirded out, and it's a weird feeling because we felt like we were given promises of a northern expansion, and a Three Kingdoms DLC itself, possibly a Korea, what have you, something like that.
Just to bring this up, I've gone on to the actual YouTube page. This is the official comment that they pinned. To clarify, no more DLC or patches for the existing Three Kingdoms game. However, we are working on a new game. Based on the Romance of the Three Kingdoms novel, this will not connect to the first.
And that's something that, so for me, I was looking at, I don't know if you're familiar with Serious Trivia's channel, but he's the gentleman that has, in my opinion, that the best. Yeah, so for anyone who's not familiar, Serious Trivia is a Three Kingdoms gamer who is probably the best on YouTube, but by far, I'd say. And he's very familiar with the novel itself, the Three Kingdoms novel, so he knows a lot about the time period. And something, I can't remember where he got this information, but he seems to be hinting at the fact that the next game was going to be more fantasy based, where they're going to kind of go all in on the magic side of things. So where did we see that somewhere? Was that actually in that blog?
The statement based on the Romance of the Three Kingdoms novel. The novel is the legend. The records are the history. And that's not just something CA does for the game. That is actually a thing. The records of the Three Kingdoms period versus the romance of the Three Kingdoms. But yeah, it really has me thinking that this is going to be a lot more focused on this fantasy section, this legendary characters. We'll see Lu Bu. I mean, I've actually done it. He defeated 1,000 men, but we'll maybe see him hit 10,000 men, which I personally think would be really cool. And I do want to play that sort of legendary fantasy title.
Yeah.
And I think this decision to split is actually a good idea, really leaning into one rather than the other. Because with Three Kingdoms, we had history and fantasy combined, and with Troy, we had history and fantasy combined, and neither have done particularly well. Do you think there's kind of any chance of the two fandoms, like, meeting? Like, is there a middle ground we could do?
Well, so for me, and this is, you've played the games, I haven't. For me, 3K and Troy both look good to me. And I gotta say, the idea of doing like a full fantasy a Romance of the Three Kingdoms game is kind of weird because I feel like we get a lot of that already. I mean, the legend, it's so character based. Come on, man. Like 3K, it's like an RPG within a strategy game. You're kitting them out with like items and like traits, and they have a skill paths, and they have the titles.
You like
they have the title
to see
system.
that even more in depth. Like what's it called? The family relations system, like everyone likes and dislikes.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be cool if that actually mattered? Like if that actually gave some legitimate bonuses, if you could link that in with your weaponry to improve your charisma to then I know I'm basically describing a different game, but I think if they went full heel, it could do it.
Yeah. I think right now your imagination is better than mine, because I'm having a hard time personally. And something that Serious Trivia, because he is familiar with the novel itself. He seems to have a like a better idea of what this could be. He was talking about I think one of the Yellow Turbans leaders is a known healer. Like that's his thing, and so there's like kind of like a magical like Warhammer healing aspect that could be in like the replenishment of the faction itself or of the characters or whatever, stuff like that. I think for me, and I don't know if this is completely relevant. All I've seen of the period is the movie Red Cliff, but the fact
So
that
good.
that battle, they have a battle that takes place on the battle takes place on a river, and there's no river battles or like there's no sea battles, so
And you
if they're
can't do the main part for anyone who hasn't seen or doesn't know about the Battle of Red Cliff. The amazing part of that is the fact that I'm trying to remember his name. Is it Zhao Zilong? No, that's a different dude.
I don't know.
But the strategist that worked with the Wave faction, my history is so failing me, sent all the ships out with no one in them to get hit by arrows to bring them back to their defense. And that was how he got arrows for his lord. He was like, look, I can get you so many thousand, I promise. And they gave him ships and he did it. By stealing them from South.
Very cool moment. Yeah.
And there's nothing like that in the game.
The thing is that they're really gonna have to blow our socks off, right?
Yes.
And that's completely possible. And that's the thing that we don't have any eyes on this right now. We're all just kind of freaking out, and we're trying to not freak out, and we're trying to tell ourselves to not panic. There's a bigger picture here that could really end up being a pretty decent thing, considering CA's track record, which I'm obviously a big fan of. I'm pretty sure that it will end up being a pretty good thing, but to really make up for this, it's gonna be. I think they have to go bigger, and this is going to be a change from Napoleon and Empire, where they went smaller, because when they kind of messed up with Empire, right? They kind of dialed it back down a little bit, and we're like, oh crap, we have to dial it down to one theater of war, and kind of streamline the narrative a little bit, and ended up being a very solid title. I think Napoleon looks good. I think the Peninsular Campaign looks very cool as well. Yeah, I think it looks pretty cool, and of course they did Shogun 2, which is again another like dialed back, very streamlined game. And it took them a while before they opened back up again and tried, okay, let's do Rome 2, which again opened up to very crappy opening. So they're big titles.
A lot. Whenever CA goes like, we're gonna go big, everyone gets hyped, and then it just flops.
I know.
It's really annoying.
Ambition's a tough thing, man. Like going big like that and succeeding, because you're trying so many new things on such a scale that you're not used to. That's why I feel like the Warhammer trilogy is like genius, man, because they start off with what do you get? You get the old world, you get 4 factions,
you get like
2
a
lords
sliver
each, and then you
of
get
the old world, and then
sliver,
it just
sliver of the
gradually
old world.
builds.
Yeah, and the factions were limited. Wasn't a lot. And honestly, I think for a lot of us, including myself, a little underwhelmed, by the limitation of that world, in comparison to what it should be. But then when they started building and they started adding, of course, the Beastman, which is I was like, oh, okay. And then Wood Elves, I was like, oh, okay. And then the Bretonnian, where they had like the whole system where, if you can't train too many peasants or else your economy is going to suck. And it's like, oh, interesting, cool. And then I thought the Norska had some really cool, faction mechanics to go into that as well. And it just kept building, man. Like then Warhammer 2 comes out, and then they combine the 2 games. Now that's how you create an epic scope, in my opinion. Like that's
so the combining the mortal empires, soon to be immortal empires. It is a DLC technically. They've made the first game DLC, and now they're making the first and second game DLC. Very interesting concept.
Yeah.
But I will say, like, it's annoying to do, but let's ignore Mortal Empires and Immortal Empires and just take the actual campaign. I think Warhammer gave them the opportunity to be creative again. if we look back at the second age of Total War, little hint, they brought out Rome. Bog standard, it's a Total War game. They then did Alexander, which is a race. They then did Barbarian Invasion, which is survival. We then have Medieval 2, bog standard, or remake of the original Medieval. But we then have the Americas, which is all about exploring, meeting new factions, or trying to survive against this new faction. You then have, I'm trying to remember all of them now, because there's quite a few for Medieval 2. Basically, my point is, as they keep bringing in all these different DLC expansions, whatever you want to call them, it's only in the old days that you really see them trying new things and getting experimental. And then with Warhammer 2, we finally see a return to that because they brought out the Vortex campaign, which is unlike any Total War you're going to play. And unfortunately, it's often ignored by the Total War community. They tend to play Mortal Empires online rather than anything else.
Yeah, I've wondered that myself, honestly. I thought that I was getting the gist that some of the mechanics in the Vortex might have been a little annoying to certain people, but I'm not that familiar with it myself, so I don't know if that's the case. Maybe the narrative just gets old, but I don't know. Or
it is the only
campaign
Total War since I was about 15 that I have lost on normal. Like, normal difficulty, first time playing, didn't know what I was doing. I conquered the map, but it doesn't matter because it all comes down to completing rituals, and I think in that time I was attacking the Vortex. I didn't even understand how the rituals worked. I got absolutely whooped because I just didn't get it. But that's kind of the beauty of those experimental titles. Going into Alexander, I lost the first 2 tries, I think, because I didn't know that it was timed. It was like, oh, wait, I have no turns left, but I have 3 armies that can defeat them. And it forces you to learn a game and play it in a different way. And I want to see a return to this experimental CA.
I do too. It's a little frustrating that this new 3 Kingdoms is not going to be linked in any way to the first one. And that's the part where it makes us wonder how much more of this world is there really to explore. And I don't mean narratively. I mean, sure, I think that's where they're going, is there's more for them to narratively explore. I get that that's what they mean, but the geography is still, we've seen a lot, like most of it, right? We were basically just left with northern China and then Korea, and there wasn't really much left for us to geographically explore. And that's a lot different than the Warhammer situation, where they're doing like the entire globe, right? Plus the demonic world, which is an incredible expanse of geography to cover, and to have it all combined together into a complete 3-game world map is so ambitious and so cool. So it makes you wonder. Okay, narratively they got more stuff to do with 3 Kingdoms. I get that. Geography wise, what are we left with?
I was gonna say they do have, essentially, it's not really expanding, they're not really developing, but they are then bringing in new stuff. In terms of, I'm trying to think what it actually would be in the time period. I think it would be Mongolia back then, maybe. I'm rubbish with geography. But yeah, they have the Silk Road, the trade routes going through Mongolia. You could also introduce trade with other factions. So you'd have, I think they were trading at the time with Middle Eastern factions who were then trading with like the rest of the world, because that was how a lot of this stuff was exported. There was essentially the middleman of the Middle East organizing trade between people and earning a lot of money from their taxes. Side note. But yeah, we haven't seen any of that. And
yeah, do you I mean, is this what it might be then? Like, is this gonna link up with the rest of the world? Is that what we're talking about? Because
I don't think you can go to that extent unless you're going for like reimagining, because they didn't expand that far. But you would
they were talking about a 3K universe. They mentioned 3K universe in that video, and it made it seem like it's not just going to be a sequel we're getting. It made it seem like they're doing, because
that's the thing. Trilogy, essentially.
Well, that's kind of what it seems like. It's a little weird that it's not connecting. At least the first one with the second one. So I don't know, where they go from there. But that's the gist that we got, right? Is that we're watching this video. They use the phrase three kingdoms universe, and all of a sudden you're thinking of, oh, and also the development team that made Three Kingdoms is completely split off, and they're now the Three Kingdoms development team of CA. They're not working on any other projects. That's what they're doing now. Just like CA has a Warhammer team, and they have a Saga team. Well, the Saga team's not set. It's just kind of whoever gets
free.
the project. Yeah, whoever's free. I think that's how it works.
Shuffle that off to the side.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think because it was the Belgian team that was doing DLC projects, and I think they did the Gram de Punch DLC for Warhammer 2, and they did such a good job with that they were kind of given. I can't remember if that's how it went, but they did something with Warhammer 2. Anyway, but that's something where this team that's going to be working on Three Kingdoms for a while now. And I don't know if you were really privy to this, but something that I can't remember who was making these videos, but there's a few people that were coming up with ideas that possibly the next medieval game is going to be a trilogy, in a lot of the same ways that we have the Warhammer trilogy. Because I think that it's like you just said, CA learned a lot from making Warhammer because it really opened up their, well, for one thing, their wallets, but also that, kind of like got them out of the box a little bit. Kind of got them thinking about different ways to do trilogies and sequels and to world build as well. Because I think that's the struggle with history, is that you end up being confined to.
It's history. There are some amazing stories in history.
Right. But that's the issue that they've been having for their 20 years is trying to figure out how to tell a narrative without being confined to your setting. And that's the most damning thing that they've come across, is how do we create a game that fits within the sandbox narrative, but it also allows people to learn about real people that actually existed and what they accomplished, and really kind of immerse you, right? And this has been the back and forth, and something that I think CA has done with Three Kingdoms, where they do the different time settings for the different different starts. Of course, 3K is not the first time they've done that. They literally did that in the Mongol Invasion DLC for Shogun Total War, Shogun 1, where the Mongol Invasion wasn't even, in my opinion, the best part of that pack. It was the eras where you did the 1530 start, the 1550 start, and the 1580 start.
All the different wars that have been throughout.
Yeah. That was, well, it was the same war. It was the same Sengoku Jidai, but it was just different starts. So it was you could have, it changes the game entirely. And they continued that idea in Medieval, where it wasn't attached to the Vikings Invasion DLC. It was just part of the base game, where you had early, late, and high, or early, high, late. I can't remember the order, but that's right, yeah. But that's
early,
how
not
that
so
goes.
Early, definitely not early.
Yeah, there we go. And I think that these are things that it's kind of coming back, right? Because I feel like they left that for a good 10 years. They didn't really think about doing that again. And then they're kind of doing this with 3K. And I think the idea for the medieval trilogy was, could we possibly have an entire medieval world just like we have with Warhammer, right? Because Warhammer, once it's finished, will have its full world, right?
So Warhammer arguably has some pretty nice sections. I mean, literally what they've done is they've just sliced the map, but it turns into quite nice solid land masses.
Yeah.
How would you do that with Earth?
Well, wait a minute. I'm pretty sure Games Workshop copied literally everything off of history and our own geography, right? Isn't the old world
It's not a direct copy, no. They definitely use a lot of inspiration. I mean, you can see...
Isn't Austria South America?
Yeah, I'm saying, you can see, a clear, this area is based off Europe, this area is based off... actually, I say more Canada and stuff for all the snowy scapes in it.
Yeah, that's Negron.
Yeah. No comment. No comment.
That's true. North America is Nagarond. Lustria is South America. The Old World is, of course, Europe. And
I mean, if I get up the
then,
map, as I said, you have these kind of nice little divisions. So unfortunately, I can't show this to you. But
no,
they've basically sliced it in three, with the entire left section of the map being Warhammer 2, the middle being Warhammer, the Old World, and now we're getting the right-hand side of the map, so we're kind of completing it.
Yeah, I think that I don't know. I feel like we're arguing here, but I feel like that fits. I feel like that fits our maps. I feel like that fits us. Like it's like split right down. What are you saying?
I just think so it's not so much the fact that you're dividing the map up. It's the fact that you're having to essentially say, are we gonna have all of Germany? Are we gonna have all of Russia? Or are you gonna just cut and like? Okay. I can see there being issues with the actual factions and how you lay stuff out, and also historically those divisions aren't always that clear and changed a lot. So it seems like it's going to be a challenge to keep everyone happy.
Yeah, well, I don't know if that's what they care about.
Fair enough.
I don't know if that's on the top of their, but no, I see where you're going with that. But anyway, I thought that was a neat idea. Whether or not that was the complete idea of the medieval trilogy, or the other idea wasn't that it was going to be split geographically, but it was going to be split sequentially between essentially like a early, high, late, which would be like super dope, right? I mean,
yeah, and then you can like technology advances as you're going between the games and stuff.
We kind of already have that though, in the sense that, you know, Attila is the early medieval period, and then classic medieval is the middle medieval period, and then late medieval period is the one thing that hasn't really been properly touched on yet. I know that you can obviously get that technology available to you in medieval 2 and in some parts in medieval 1, but having a true representation of pike and shot warfare in a Total War game, again, I get that you can like recruit the units. I know that you can like you know, try to figure out. You can get
pike units, and you know, you can get like various forms of ranged combat in Empire, and that it is there, but it's not real pike and shot. I get what you mean.
But can you actually, and something that I've been really geeking out on lately, like I don't know that much about history, but I've been learning a little bit more about the late medieval period, and it is so cool. Like it is so interesting, because that was the birth of modern warfare. That's when they really started to learn how they had to do a combined arms format to war to really, you know, win. And so when we talk about how you can recruit units like pikes and guns and say that that's not the same, well, yeah, it's not the same, because you need a game that can really
the unit of everything.
Yes, the formation is what's important. So when you have the Spanish Tercio, that's what's going to be very special for that era of warfare. And then I can't remember the Swedish version of it, but the Swedes had a version of the Spanish Tercio that was kind of an evolution of it. You know, it was kind of like the Romans taking their triple X axes and like trumping the Greeks' shield wall. It was like, well, we can do that better, you know. And it's really interesting. Like, there's this very small nation state, and I can't remember what was the name of it, but they were the ones that decided to, since they had no knights because they were all peasants, they just decided to fight from war wagons. So they just like put their war wagons in a circle, and they shot guns and cannons out of their wagons at knights that were riding at them. And it was like a fortress. It was like a fortress that they just would maneuver, and they would go to where they want to hold, and they would go around in a circle and shoot from that. And it's funny because now we see that unit literally exist in Warhammer with the Empire war wagons. It's amazing. So like there is so much to get into with the late medieval period that like 6 months ago I didn't know anything about this. So like I thought like pike and shot warfare. Come on.
This is what I feel Warhammer Total War does so well, is that it really encourages you, even though you're not getting the full historic picture from the game, you're getting a taste of it, and then you're going out and exploring and learning more and more, and I think it piqued a lot of people's interest.
Oh, absolutely. That's something that I've kind of shrugged my shoulders at for years. I've been hearing people say they want a pike and shot Total War, and I just kind of go, eh. What is that? 50 years, and then I find out, oh no, it's not. God,
No,
I'm
it was
stupid.
really good.
It's not 50. It's actually it's not 50 years. It's actually it took a because that's like like dumb people like me think that guns were invented and then we were immediately wearing red uniforms, marching in a straight line, shooting at each other. And it's like, no, that actually took a very, very,
Yeah.
very long time for generals to figure out how to really use guns, you
Mhm.
know? And that's something, like you just said, it's something that I think Total War, I mean, to that degree, Total War does varying levels of
Yeah.
displaying that. But I think that ambition is always there.
Mhm.
They're always being ambitious and they're always trying to show us new things with that. Troy having and maybe this is, I haven't really talked with you about what you don't like about Troy, but so I don't know if this is one of the things, but to me the whole I like the
Mm.
infantry thing. To me, having the different classes of infantry,
No,
um
great.
yeah, is it not great? It
Yeah,
looks great to me.
really
Yeah,
good. I,
really,
but
really
there are
good.
so many things in Troy I think they got right in
Mm.
terms of actual. I'm trying to remember who it was. I think it's the Amazons are like my favorite. They are what I've
Okay,
always
yeah,
wanted from a Total War game of having your base unit gaining experience and like leveling them up and
yeah,
retraining.
yeah, yep,
Um,
yep.
my real problem with Troy. So have you played a match yet?
No, nope. Sorry,
Go
still on Shogun
play a
1.
match. Just I don't know if you got it when it was on Epic for free. If anyone has, start up, play as I think it's Agamemnon, and
Mm.
just leave your army behind. Send
Mm.
him. Done. Next
Oh,
force,
really?
you defeat the first army, and then you move on to the settlement, and you claim that just with Agamemnon. Who cares about the rest of them? And that's
Yeah.
kind of your game. You win, like from then on.
Yeah.
But then you play as other characters, and you even try that, and they just die instantly.
Mm.
And it seems like they put so much effort into making these legendary characters truly legendary that they've kind of just messed up the balance too much. And it's, if you show
Yeah.
up with the
Well,
right character, just quit. You've won or they've won. It doesn't matter what you have. It doesn't matter what tactics you use. That's how the game goes. They are there. They win.
that's an interesting point you brought up because that's something that reminds me of something that, gosh, I can't remember the name of it. I don't know if this was Melkor or someone else, but someone was talking about the one downside of Attila, and the one thing that Attila really did wrong to make it not appeal to as many people, and that was the fact that it didn't have that intro level faction. It didn't have something
I
that
get you.
really let you. It didn't really have that thing that kind of eased you into the game and kind of showed you. Because here's the thing: like the Sassanids are the easiest faction in Attila, but even with the Sassanids, you still have your what do they call the satrapies, your vassals to manage and stuff like that. So it's not like a base experience, like a Total War experience. You still have to manage diplomacy, So even with the easiest faction in Attila, you still have a lot going on. And then a couple of that with Attila himself, plus a clash with the Eastern Roman Empire, and you have a decent little challenge for what's supposed to be the easiest faction in the game. And I think that's something. I don't think that they ever wanted to talking about how Agamemnon is really easy. I think he's supposed to be, right? Like he's supposed to be
Yeah.
a real breeze. He's like a tank. I can't remember what his faction mechanics are, but they make it easy. I can't remember what
I
they
can't
are
remember
though.
even now. I know his
Yeah,
brother.
yeah.
His brother gets to just automatically claim places.
It's a
if-
colonize. Yep.
yeah, if it's in
Yeah.
the same
Yep.
larger province region, I forget what they're called. You can just automatically colonize it. And
If he has vision on it, you can claim it. Yeah.
oh really? Is it that advanced? Wow. But
I thought it was vision, but I might be wrong.
if it is, then that's easy mode times 10. That's basically congratulations, you have won. But
Right.
I get what you mean, not having that sort of introduction, because in every Total War, particularly with the older ones where you were locked, you only had so many factions to begin with, you have to complete the game. Rome, you had the Julii. You always played as them first because you could basically hammer it in like a day. And then you went on to Medieval 2 and you had the base European factions as the easy mode. That was your introduction. And then you unlock these harder characters. Sorry, harder factions.
Right.
Well, now harder characters, yeah. It is something I'm always interested in, and that's the tutorialization of games. And I do feel Total War now... Yeah, I get into all this stuff. I do feel like Total War
I just
now,
mean like I just mean CA has really dropped the ball on that a lot. But
yeah, they are overly reliant on the fact that their fan base has been playing this for 2 decades. We can drop into a Total War and just pick it up. New players show up, they're like, wait, what the hell is this? Why am I losing money? What does money matter? Can I just go kill someone?
Yeah.
They need to like realize they're not going to get new people no matter what they do if they aren't teaching people how to play the damn game. And the current method
what game do you think did the best job of that?
That's a really good question. I'm remembering back on the tutorials. Rome didn't have a very good tutorial, but it was so easy playing as Julii, you didn't need it. Whereas Medieval 2 had like a proper tutorial, but it was bugged. So unless you know how to fix it, you couldn't actually complete it.
Yeah.
I think Rome 2 had a good tutorial, but it was flipping hard. You actually could lose that. And I've never completed Attila's. Attila's, because there's too much free choice. And if you choose the wrong thing, you just lose. Yeah, it's really, really
bad.
About
the road
in
to independence.
Yeah, you want to promote it, but if you're telling me you can do this or do this, and then if I do one of them, I die, whereas do the other and it's like easy breeze, just tell me what to do.
Oh, no, I mean the road to
Oh,
independence campaign in Empire Total War. Yeah. No?
No. The thing is, I actually I do quite like the story and how they interwove tutorialization with the story, gradually introducing things.
Okay.
But I still feel that lacked the campaign side of tutorialization. It did really well at the combat.
Okay.
I actually think Napoleon did it better because you had like 2 time limits. You had historical time limit and then just complete it, where you could learn the base game, completing it, and learn how to play properly by doing it in historical time. But I don't think any of them have done a true tutorial. Like, now you've really got me thinking about it. It's usually just pop-ups and hints.
Yeah, right. Figure it out as you go along. Hopefully you picked easy mode, otherwise you're not going to do well.
I think I lost easy mode as a kid. I lost easy mode on Medieval 2 playing as Germany, Holy Roman Empire. How do you even lose that?
Well, I mean, Holy Roman Empire is one of the hardest factions in the game, isn't it?
Really?
Is it not? I don't know. I haven't.
I can't.
Is it not?
Really? You're super overpowered and you have access to like everywhere. Like you start the game and go, hey Milan, you're now mine. Hey Venice, you're now mine. Hey Byzantines, you're now mine. Maybe I've got so used to it.
Medieval 2. Yeah.
Can't be them. Curious now. I might have to look that up later.
The Turks? Is it the Turks?
I feel like it will be an Islamic faction. Possibly Byzantines. Byzantines are usually considered the hardest because just everyone hates you.
Okay. Right. Yeah.
Well, we have gone on a Husive tangent at this point, which isn't bad. It was a nice chat. But bringing this back to CA, which I think we mentioned like 15 minutes ago, about how...
Yes.
I have no idea how I'm going to edit all this. But all the way back when, if you can remember, we mentioned that they dropped Empire and they had this statement come out and they kind of explained things and they admitted the problems and they were very transparent. They talked about what was going on and how they're going to improve and why they needed to do it, what sort of issues really have been created from the fact that A, the announcement was confusing, B, they clarified literally the day after, so even CA admitted this must be confusing, and they've kind of gone quiet on the news front towards Three Kingdoms development and really are now just promoting Warhammer 3. They've kind of ignored the history aspects for now.
Yeah, and this is, as always, when these types of things happen, it's going to create an issue where the community is going to feel like they can't trust, anymore. It's gonna be one of those situations. I understand. On one hand, I do understand the timing, and I know that seems a little weird considering that I said earlier that the timing was bad. But the one thing that I do understand is that they didn't want to hold us off way into the future to when, like 6 months from now when we're expecting that new DLC without any word on it before they say, oh, by the way, we dropped that 6 months ago. We're not doing anything, like that. So in a sense, I feel like there was an adult decision that was, that was made where they did want us to kind of they wanted to drop that on us and get that out of the way without really have us hanging on to it for an extra 6 months. I feel like, and this depends on the development cycle of the new game, but I feel like maybe 3 more months until they could tell us something about the new game would have been a little better, and
including some images or images news of development rather than just saying look to the future, here it will come.
Right, yeah, because the video itself was pretty fluffy. It just kind of brought us into, just kind of gave us a pat on the back and told us that we killed Lubu 8,000 times and good for you. But I really feel like, and I don't want this to sound like a call out, but I feel like Jack Lusted needs to go the route of Mike Simpson and kind of give us a little blog piece and tell us about why. What happened, man?
I think that's totally fair enough. We're not. I get what you mean, not calling out. No one wants to. I definitely don't want to single people out and say this is the problem, this is the blame. But no, I think in this case it is needed. They really do need to just give a message. They need to sit down, write out a statement, and release it on multiple social media, making sure everyone sees this. This is what happened. This is what we're doing. And to be honest, I would include an apology, not for anything it's a business. They made the decision to stop the game. They made a decision to start a new game. Fair enough. But an apology that it wasn't clear, that they should have handled it in a better way. Right. Yeah.
Making that video was, not to get too salty on it, but it's. It feels a little insulting in the sense that was what we got was a video that tried to play up to our charms a little bit and then drop the hammer.
I honestly think the first half wasn't needed, or if they wanted to release it, separate video.
They were trying to soften the blow. That's what they were trying to do, but it treated us like adults. And here's the thing, if what we're saying, if anyone ever does deliver this blog post that we're talking about, I understand that with the way that the community is these days, I think that with the way the internet is these days, ultra criticism is at a high. People are just really, everyone's a critic, and I hate that saying, but it's so true.
If you actually have a look at my channel, sorry to self-promote, but there was a message from a member of the community on the video I posted about this. I think they are liars who take their fans for granted. Now, I'm not even going to go into the stuff on Reddit because that is the first Reddit thread I have just walked away from. I wanted nothing to do with it. Right. That is the nicer of the comments I have seen of this style. Do you... I know, right? Now, I have no problem with people voicing their opinion. and you need to. And I do think CA needs to hear this and need to learn from it. But I do feel that the extent and the way that it's been done, the community is not showing themselves to be particularly good or particularly adult. I mean, if you're saying you want to be treated as an adult from CA giving this information, we need to act like them ourselves.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm just cutting my own throat on YouTube saying this, but that's what I feel.
No, I think if you're doing that, then I'm cutting my throat too, because I think
to our demise.
We're in this. But yeah, I think that's what we've. So we're in an interesting position right now where, especially as you and I, we're small channels on YouTube, and not that we're trying to in any way create enemies amongst our other content creators on YouTube, but there's definitely an element of, click. Yeah, but when you there's that clickbait. It's how you get views. When you create a title with a certain thumbnail, and you talk about how the company that you follow just killed the game that you've played 40 hours of, and then you get your 2 million views, and it's just good business for you. And it's kind of ironic that what's good business for you is criticizing the business aspects of another business. And it's something that for me, I personally, I feel like my adult crusade, my life crusade has been kind of a backlash at this ultra criticism that I'm getting tired of myself.
Yes.
I feel like the entire internet, the entire world is like, it's like they all became college students that learned how to use critical thinking, and then they're so proud of themselves, and they just want to show everyone that they can critically think about things. And that's what this criticism comes from. Like, everyone's a movie critic, everyone's a video game critic, everyone's
I can kind of
jaded at business practices, and it's like, grow up a little bit.
To stick with the news of Three Kingdoms, so many of the videos I was looking at, and honestly, one of the real reasons I did the episode or the video on it, everyone was really focusing on their opinion and looking at what they think or what they want for the future. I just want the facts. And it really does annoy me that just so many different videos on different games, different blog sites you'll watch on different games, it becomes so shrouded in opinion and like ideas. Just tell me what happened. Like, all I want to know from ZA is what did you do? Why did you do it? What's coming next? Thank you very much.
Right.
Done. And
right.
That's all you need. Like, that is news. That is information. That's not. It's not the first half of the CA development update. They literally did it.
It's something. It's something. My favorite video of this news actually came from Serious Trivia himself. I thought that he had a very well-rounded approach and response to this. A very, dare I say, adult way of handling this information, where he says, obviously there's a disappointing aspect to this, because this is what he's fallen in love with this game, and it's meant so much to him, but there's also this incredibly exciting silver lining, which is, I would say, it's a heck of a silver lining, if you want to call it that. If we're talking about a 3K universe, holy moly, man.